The basic things I always tell people is you want to be bending around the outside of the form, because wood fibers will compress but they won't stretch. So in essence, the pressure of the wood fibers compressing helps the clamping action. I've talked to some people that do it the other way and it seems to work for them. I don't know how they get it to work, but it's kind of like, I guess, being a left-footed breaker. If you've got a system that works for you, just stay with it. And we'll get our other piece of metal around the outside. Okay. Now I'll get a single clamp in the middle. And actually, sometimes I kind of like to go ahead and use a K-body clamp. For this first one, there's not a lot of gluing pressure. And they do really tend to hold things parallel. Okay. I want to try and get it to where we're at least right here. Get a little more. And all that's going to do is make it a little easier as we start clamping. Come right here on the other side, Ken, do the same thing. There we go. All right, keep pushing until you get, you're going to be able to get it to there. Okay, great. See, that's the role of a good helper, to make my job look easy. All right. One of the things that I've found too, I put a notch into my piece of OSB there. And I'm going to take a clamp and come right in here. And if I keep that pressed down really good and tight in the middle, and I can also do the same thing out in the ends, I'm going to end up with a very nice flat glue up. The trick is to remember to come back and take that block of glue off before it ends up permanently stuck. But even if you forget, you can always knock it loose with a chisel. See, I'm kind of supporting that C-clamp back against the L bracket. Probably have to reset that one. Ken, would you come around here and make sure that that's going to jump up over that wood block? This one is loosened. A lot of times I'll go back and resetting those after I get a little further along. Hold that over enough to it'll make it easy to get this one set. Probably been about 10 minutes and it's already starting to bite. I've pulled these glue ups in as little as an hour. That's somewhat of a function of what species of wood you're using, what time of the year it is, how thick the strips are, how tight the radius is. I think it's a good idea on any of them to leave them for at least a couple hours, and sometimes I've left them overnight. But generally speaking, most glue ups that are done with a hardwood or poplar or something like that, you can pull in a couple hours. And what I usually like to do is take a look at my clock. It's almost 10 o'clock here, so if I write down 10 o'clock, I'll know when I can come back and pull the form. Well, here's the glue up. As you can see, it's got some imperfections in it, and what I'm going to try and do now is get it down flat to a blank that's about 1/16 thicker than my finished piece of trim. Our finished piece of trim in this instance is going to be an inch thick, so I want to end up about 1.16 inches thick. And I'm also going to take a compass and I'm going to draw 4 inches so that I can edge sand and end up with a piece of wood that is on an exact radius and also about 1.16 inches thick, and then we'll be ready to run through the planer. Right now this doesn't look like much, but you're going to be amazed at, with a few steps, how this is going to turn into a really gorgeous piece of curved trim. First thing I want to do is come in here on this inside edge and mark those indexing points that show where the straight trim meets the curved trim. The next thing I'll do is just take a scraper and get this plastic off. At least as much of the plastic off as possible. And sometimes the glue will still be pretty wet underneath here. Now I'm going to go ahead and scrape this a little bit. I don't try and get it perfectly clean. It's a good idea to wear safety glasses when you're scraping this too. Of course, you want to get this glue off because it is going to be hard on my planer knives. I have to be honest, I've been blessed with having several planers, and usually what I'll do is just keep one planer with dull knives in it for cleaning up glue ups or cleaning some sort of a piece of wood that might be dirty or something that damaged the knife. You just have to balance out how much work you want to do scraping versus how much damage you can do to your planer knife. And what I usually do is kind of a happy medium. Near as much as on the inside. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take a hand planer set on about 1/16, I may go back to a 32nd of an inch deep, and I want to make some passes around here, just starting to flatten the blank out.
Ready when you are.
Okay. We've done some initial work on flattening out this glue up, and now we're ready to run through the planer. You wouldn't think it would do it, but if I just start this piece in with a little bit of pressure, the curve will feed itself on through. I've left off the dust collector on the end because when you run a curved piece through there, the hose tends to get hooked up on it. It's just one more thing to dodge. We're just going to make a little mess we have to clean up. So Ken, if you'll just kind of catch that on this end. I may be set higher than I need to be. I'm going to try and make the first pass through, and then we can just ease our way down about 1/16 of an inch or maybe a 32nd at a time. Those two passes have cleaned most of the profile up, and you can even start to see the grain pattern in the wood. Now I want to see, but I think I can take about a 30-second off the back. So I'm going to go about a half a crank and run it one time on the back just to flatten the back out a little bit more. Okay. Now we're ready to get a consistent width. I'd like to sand it to within about a 32nd of an inch of the same width all the way around, and that's not really that hard to do. I'll use an edge sander to do it, but you can do the same thing with a belt sander. If you clamp this piece to a surface, you can go around the outside edge with a belt sander, and it doesn't take that much to get within about 32nd of a consistent radius. And again, what we're looking for is about 4 inches. I'm going to use a compass now to mark a consistent radius off this inside edge. The inside edge is almost always true because it's been clamped against my piece of form metal. Now, if I didn't have an edge sander, I'd just clamp this to the table and use the belt sander to go around the outside edge. Fortunately, I've got an edge sander. The only thing you really need to know about sanding the outside edge with an edge sander is you just got to keep it moving. You don't want to stop in one spot and get bogged down. So we just got to keep it moving around the outside. Sometimes they'll even kind of rock back and forth. Now we've got a fairly true outside edge. It should allow us to run our curved blank through the wooden guides on the Woodmaster.